Om Namo Narayanaya, welcome back. It's about 6:45-ish here on a Monday morning as I record this. I got my cup of coffee with Mr. Rogers, who I really like, and we're going to dive right into the second part of the Yoga Sutras. So part 2 is called Practice. Kriya Yoga is comprised of austerity, self-study, and devotion to Ishvara. This yoga has the purpose of bringing about samadhi and attenuating the kleshas. Ignorance, I amness, attraction, aversion, and clinging to life are the 5 kleshas. Ignorance is the field of the other kleshas, whether dormant, attenuated, intercepted, or activated. Ignorance is the seeing of that which is eternal, pure, joyful, and the soul in that which is ephemeral, impure, sorrowful, and not the soul. I amness is the identification, as it were, of the powers of vision and visioner. Attraction is that which rests on pleasant experiences. Aversion is that which rests on sorrowful experiences. Clinging to life, flowing along by its own momentum, is rooted thus even in sages. These kleshas, in their subtle form, are overcome by the process of involution within the individual. The mental activities produced by these kleshas are overcome through meditation. The kleshas are the root source of the stored karma, and this may be experienced in the present visible birth or in an unseen future birth. So long as this root source exists, there is also a fruition from it of one's class, lifespan, and life experiences. These are pleasant or unpleasant as the fruit of meritorious or non-meritorious actions, respectively. Men of discrimination see sorrow in all experience, whether from the sorrow of impermanence, from the anguish coming from samskaras, or from the gunas causing conflicting mental activities. That which is to be overcome is sorrow that is yet to come. The identity of awareness, the experiencer, with what is experienced is the cause of that which is to be overcome. What is experienced has the character of brightness, activity, and inertia. It is embodied in the elements and the sense organs. Its purpose is to provide both experience and liberation. The levels of the gunas are the particularized, the unparticularized, the differentiate, and the undifferentiate. Awareness, which is the sheer power of seeing, although pure, perceives the mind's content. The essential nature of the seeing is only for the sake of awareness. Although what is seen ceases to exist for one whose purpose has been accomplished, it has nevertheless not ceased to exist altogether, as for others it remains the common experience. The notion of identity is the means of understanding the essential nature of the power of the owner and that of the owned. The cause of this identity is ignorance. With the disappearance of this ignorance, the identity also disappears. This is total cessation of bondage, the aloneness, the kaivalya of the power of awareness. And we're going to end here with verse 25. What I like about this, which you might have picked up, is it doesn't just start out with a very, for lack of a better word, new agey approach that says, life is full of ignorance and meditate on your navel and all ignorance vanishes. You actually really don't see that so much in theological texts like this. You don't really see that in the Upanishads. That's a very New Agey thing, and it's actually very surface. What it does is it gives you a technique, which may or may not work, I'm not arguing that, but it doesn't actually tell you the system. And it doesn't put you deep into the technique. That's what these texts are so great about. They give you more. So this opens up listing things. Kriya Yoga is composed of this, this, and this. the the 5 kleshas are ignorance, I amness, attraction, aversion, and clinging to life. And it starts off with something very abstract. It starts off with feelings and emotions and things that are in us, like clinging to life. And then it points out what they are. And then it shows us at the very end, sort of this revelation, with the disappearance of these things, come the cessation of bondage, come the power of awareness. Basically comes all those things that we're told are going to be achieved by focusing on our navel. But this is telling us exactly what is happening in that process of focusing. It's actually telling us that, yes, focusing, breathing, and all that is good, okay? But this is saying our awareness is tied into our ignorance. So if we're not understanding of that, we might be sitting here chanting Om, 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 breathe in, breathe out, I feel good, today is a good day, and doing something like that, and then get up and cling to life. Very much so, cling to life. Get up and be ignorant. Get up and have a sense of I amness, as in, screw you, I'm the center of the world, you know what I mean. Which almost makes all this sort of a waste of time. That's what I love about this. It really shows you what is happening. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? We often in society, I feel, put a lot of pressure, or not pressure, focus, and with it often comes pressure, on the actual technique of what we must do, but we don't understand what's happening inside, and we don't understand the bigger picture. And if you start to get into some Hindu scriptures, the Upanishads, particularly the Srimad Bhagavatam, it starts to look at layers. And the Srimad Bhagavatam really gets into this in some videos I've put up already in the first 3 cantos, where it shows how we are via layers. Much like if you're discussing a body in terms of biology, you start with the cells, and then you go into the veins and the blood, and eventually it's the skin, and then you have the arm and the person and the personality. You get bigger and bigger. These books start this way too. And that's how this is started. It starts with ignorance. And then it goes into this awareness. And if we don't get that, I don't feel like we're getting the full thing. We're doing ourselves an injustice if all we want to do is focus on the practice without knowing what is happening in the practice, the inner workings. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, just in a non-spiritual context. Sometimes it helps, I think, to get rid of some of this vague religious stuff and just put it aside and turn to something very normal and we can all relate to. So there's this woman, and she's very successful in her life, but she's overwhelmed, she's stressed out. She's got a couple kids demanding everything. She's got a husband who doesn't pay attention to her. She makes good money and she can buy whatever she wants, and she wears really nice clothes and has a super nice car, but it's just like she just wants to get in the car and drive. I mean, work is always demanding things from her. She's just, so much stress. Like, is this what life is supposed to be? So she goes to a massage therapist on a regular basis, because she knows that, the massage is really great. And so she goes to this woman she visits all the time. There's incense in the air, and there's nice gentle music, and there's some really nice stuff hanging on the walls and flowers, and it's just a really nice environment, very calming. And they have tea for when you're done with the massage. And so this woman, she takes off her clothes, lays down on the bed, the blankets over her, and the massage therapist starts, working her muscles, which is great, and it feels good. And about a minute into it, this woman, she's laying there, reaches down to her bag, grabs her phone, and then starts reading emails and responding to some texts at work, and starts mumbling to herself, I gotta get this, I gotta do this. And spends the next hour of the massage texting. puts it down at one point. The massage is done, and she puts on her clothes. She gets up. She has a little bit of tea, pays with her credit card, and leaves. And then she tells everyone, oh, I went for a massage today, and oh, it was really great. Did she really do a relaxing massage? She spent the hour on her phone, texting, doing exactly what frustrates her. You see, this woman thought that just by having someone knead her body and laying down naked was all it took. That's a massage. She went through the motions. But she didn't connect with what a massage is actually about. Yes, it's about working your muscles. I've had many massages, and my cousin's a massage therapist, and I know they work your muscles, but they're also to relax your mind and your body and your soul, and to get back in touch with this physical thing, which you can often feel not in touch with. And it's to separate yourself from the world. So for this woman to sit there on the phone, she's like a person who's just sitting and meditating on their navel, and then they get up and do something else and it's all done. She's just going through the motions. She doesn't understand that, no, you've got to be digging into this massage on all levels of it. You've got to be enjoying the incense, enjoying the music, letting your mind go, not just having it as one more thing you do today. Making it no different than a trip to Starbucks. And that's, for me, so much of what this sutra is saying. Now, you may disagree, and I'm fine with that. Doesn't bother me in the least. I haven't prepped this talk. This is very off the cuff. You are free to respond. I will respond or like every comment that comes in this channel. You're free to email me. You're free to lambaste me. Do what you want. Also, you're free to ask questions about this, but I do not consider myself a scholar. And also, some questions you can probably find just as easily on Google as I can. So I may not really be that helpful. But feel free to respond. I'm just sort of starting the conversation on my awareness and my feeling and what I get off this in the immediate moment reading this. And I have not read this before. The only thing I did was I looked at how many verses were in each part and went, okay, it looks like 30 verses, so we'll stop after verse 15. And then I just check verse 15 and verse 16 and go, okay, this looks like a nice cutting off point. That's as much as I've read. So, one more thing before I close out this video. This translation is by Subramanya Swami, who is the founder of Kauai's Hindu monastery. I think it's Kauai. I'm not sure how to pronounce Hawaiian words. It is the Hindu monastery that puts out Hinduism Today magazine. I'm actually doing their master course, which is a nightly reading and meditation thing that goes on for a couple years, and I've talked to the Satguru many times on email, and I just like what they do and I wanted to support them. But there are many, many, many other translations out there, and they will look very different. Some of them, I will warn you, may or may not be correct. Some of them I find, whether it's for the Yoga Sutras or something else, someone will translate something not really word per word, but the gist of, and they'll often then expand, like really expand. I've seen this, where the Sanskrit will be just a line, and then the translation will be huge. And I understand, as someone who's spoken many languages, what they're trying to do, and as a spiritual person, I understand they're trying to get you the actual meaning, and it can take some clarity. Or maybe that line, there's multiple ways of translating it. But you have to know that when you're reading it, you're not getting the word-per-word translation. On the other hand, there are word-per-word translations that are just like, this is almost impossible to understand. I ran into that when I was reading the Upanishads on this channel. There were times I'm like, yeah, I think this is an accurate translation, but it's almost impossible to understand, and it's hard to read. So if you're seeing what I'm reading and you've read other things, that's totally fine. If you're really into the Yoga Sutra, it might be best to read a few different versions. I do recommend that. And if this is something you're studying, then absolutely check out a few different versions and try to figure out what works for you and what's right. So with that, I open the floor to all of you. Please feel free to feedback if you want. Thank you for joining me on this channel. And mind the sounds in the background. It's the window, and there's cars, and if I close the window, I will sweat to death under these lights. So sorry about that, but the lowest quality video out there, and this is whatever. So Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.